the hill that fought back. Before the chaos erupted, my life was quiet, almost sacred. Each morning, I'd wake to the rustle of leaves and the chatter of birds echoing across the ridge. My name's Tom Larson, a retired environmental engineer, 62 years old, with 3 decades spent studying soil, water tables, and runoff systems. I thought I'd earned my peace. So, I bought a plot of land just outside a sprawling suburban neighborhood called Meadowview Estates, governed by a homeowners association, HOA. My land sat atop a grassy hill, untouched, overlooking their manicured lawns like a silent sentinel. It was my sanctuary, and I was determined to keep it that way. I built a modest single-story home, solar-powered, with big windows that let in the light and native grasses I'd planted myself. My days were simple, tending to saplings I'd saved from nearby construction sites, testing erosion control methods on my sloped yard, or tinkering in my workshop. I wasn't a hermit, but I didn't mingle with Meadowview's golf cart parades or block parties. Their HOA, with its polished board members strutting like they owned the world, didn't sit right with me. They didn't own my hill, not a single inch. My deed was ironclad, zoned for residential and conservation use. No fences needed. The steep drive and thick trees on the east side kept most folks away, and a rarely used gravel utility road on the west side posed no threat. Or so I thought. Trouble started small. I'd catch HOA types, usually the younger, self-important ones, trespassing to snap photos or poke around. One day, a guy in a Meadowview polo stood at my property line, clicking away on his tablet without a word. "What's this about?" I asked, stepping out. He mumbled something about future plans and scurried off. I shrugged it off, but then came the letter. It arrived in a crisp Meadowview Estates envelope, hand-delivered despite my not being part of their club. Inside, a polite but absurd request. They wanted to use my hilltop for overflow parking during their annual Founders Day festival. I laughed. Parking on a hill with loose soil and seasonal runoff? My ATV barely made it up after a rain. I tossed the letter aside. A week later, another arrived, this one sharper, citing an old easement for the gravel road at my hill's base. It mentioned vague statutes and maps I'd never seen. I called my old colleague, Sarah, who worked at the city zoning office. She dug through archives and confirmed no easement existed. The road was for utility access only, never repurposed. I figured that settled it. Then I heard the growl of diesel engines. Stepping onto my porch, I saw 2 trucks at the hill's base, men in vests marking my land with orange spray paint. My heart tightened as I walked down, boots crunching on dry grass. "You lost?" I asked the guy with blueprints. He smirked like I was a kid playing pretend. "We're here for Meadowview HOA. Plans to pave 50 parking spots for the festival." I kept calm. "This is private land. I didn't approve this." He glanced at his clipboard, confused. "Says here it's cleared. Shared easement." I shook my head. "It's not. Leave, or I call the sheriff." They left, but I knew this wasn't over. Meadowview didn't like hearing no. The pressure escalated. HOA board members knocked on my door, flashing fake smiles and offering community partnerships. They dangled $500 for my gardening fund. I told them to get lost. Then came the smear campaign. A pamphlet pinned to my mailbox read, "Tom Larson blocks community progress," listing my name and address, painting me as a selfish outsider. I taped it in my notebook, a reminder of their tactics. I'd seen this before, subtle power plays in boardrooms, zoning hearings, courtrooms where truth took a back seat to influence. But they underestimated me. And the land. A certified letter from a law firm, Baxter & Klein, landed next. 8 pages, claiming Meadowview had a vested interest in my hill, citing decades of unchallenged access to the utility road. They demanded I sign a usage agreement for 1.6 acres of my western slope for event parking. I didn't yell. I poured coffee, pulled out my files, deed, soil surveys, slope data, a 2009 city letter confirming no HOA easement, and called Sarah again. "They're bluffing," she said. "But they'll start work anyway and drag you into court later. Move fast." I mailed a cease and desist letter to the HOA and their lawyers, sharp enough to cut. Then they crossed the line. Bulldozers rolled in on a Saturday morning, tearing into my hill like it was theirs. I filmed everything, plates, faces, machines, and called the sheriff. By the time a deputy arrived, the damage was done. Saplings uprooted, soil compacted, natural drainage wrecked. The deputy halted work, but the scars remained. That afternoon, Meadowview's president, Linda Harper, showed up in a blazer and heels, clutching a portfolio like a shield. "Tom, there's been a misunderstanding," she said, voice dripping with false sweetness. "We acted in good faith, believing this was shared land." I cut her off. "You bulldozed my property without consent. You've compromised the slope's stability." She claimed they'd hired a geotech team. "Did they even see the hill before you started?" I asked. Silence. "You've made a mistake," I said. "Nature doesn't care about your permits." She walked away. I inspected the damage. The western slope, clay-heavy with shale below, was a disaster waiting to happen. They'd scraped topsoil, left ruts, and ignored erosion controls. A quick water test confirmed the soil was too compact to absorb rain. I sent photos, videos, and a city stormwater report flagging the hill as unsuitable for paving to the HOA. No reply. 2 days later, they were back with more trucks, laying gravel and asphalt. A sign went up, Meadowview Overflow Lot, event parking only. The storm hit that Friday. Dark clouds rolled in, thunder cracking like breaking stone. Rain pounded the hill, pooling in bulldozer tracks, unable to drain. At 3:17 a.m., I heard it, a low groan, the earth stretching. Flashlight in hand, I saw cracks spidering across the slope. Mud bubbled, gravel shifted. The hill was waking up, and it was angry. By noon, Meadowview was setting up for their festival, oblivious. Tents went up, cars parked on the fresh asphalt. SUVs and minivans adding weight to an unstable slope. I walked down to warn Linda one last time. She met me in a red raincoat, clipboard in hand. "Evacuate this lot," I said. "It's going to slide." She scoffed. "It's been raining for days, Tom. If it was going to happen, it would have." I leaned in. "Landslides don't warn. They wait. When this hill goes, it won't stop at your cars." She turned her back. The crowd glared, tired of the crazy old man ruining their party. At 4:13 p.m., it happened. A vibration rattled my coffee mug, followed by a crack like a gunshot. From my window, I watched a fissure rip across the lot. Asphalt buckled, cars lurched, then slid in waves of mud and rock. Over 30 vehicles twisted or vanished into the slurry. Tents collapsed. People screamed. It moved fast, 20 miles per hour, unstoppable. I called 911, reporting the landslide, then ran out into the rain. The slope was unrecognizable, a 40-foot deep, 150-foot wide wound. Cars lay scattered, one upside down in a ditch, another half buried in a tree. Miraculously, no one died. Emergency crews swarmed in, firefighters, EMTs, deputies. Linda stood soaked, her blazer ruined, staring at me in shock. A geologist, Paul Reed, shook my hand. "You warned them, didn't you?" he said, eyeing the wreckage. "Your slope assessment was dead on." I nodded, hollow. This didn't have to happen. The next morning, news vans lined Meadowview's entrance. Headlines screamed, "Landslide buries HOA lot, negligence under investigation." The HOA spun it as an act of God, even claiming I'd withheld warnings. But I had proof, 6 documented alerts, emails, photos, videos. Sarah leaked them to a journalist, and an expose tore through Meadowview's lies, quoting their own board members mocking my boomer paranoia. Lawsuits followed. Homeowners sued the HOA for misusing dues and endangering lives. I filed my own for trespassing, property destruction, negligence, and defamation. My evidence, 200 pages of documents, drone footage, expert testimony from DR. Lou Carter, was undeniable. In court, Judge Eleanor Hayes didn't hold back. "This is hubris, not stewardship," she said, dismissing the HOA's suit against me and awarding me $285,000 for repairs and legal fees. She praised my integrity, my refusal to bend. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt whole. The HOA collapsed. A 71% community vote dissolved the board. A new one formed, transparent, with an environmental advisor. Linda vanished, rumored to have left the state. My hill became a conservation site, co-stewarded by me and the county. I hired ecologists to restore it, terraces, drainage systems, native plants. It would take years, but the land was healing. Wildflowers bloomed where asphalt once lay. Deer returned, standing where floodlights had fallen. One spring morning, Sarah brought a certificate, Thomas Larson Conservation Site. At a small ceremony, neighbors I'd never met thanked me. A young mother, Emily, whose kids narrowly escaped the slide, laid flowers by a new oak tree. Linda sent a handwritten note. I was wrong. You saved lives. I'm sorry. I kept it, but didn't reply. The hill had spoken louder than any apology could. Standing on my porch, watching the sunset gild the grass, I thought of my late wife, Ellen, who'd loved this land from day one. Justice wasn't just the courtroom win. It was the birds singing again, the earth finding its rhythm. I'd stood my ground, and the truth had stood with me. What do you think about Tom's fight? Have you ever faced bullying or injustice in your community, whether from an HOA, a neighbor, or a system that ignored the truth? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Was Tom right to stand firm, or should he have compromised? Let's hear your perspective on standing up to power and protecting what's yours.